Wow, it's been a while. We had to extradite Alex Donno from Europe. 305, guys. What was the area code in Italy?
Oh, I don't even know. Like, I know the country code, it's 39. In terms of the area code, I have no idea. But I know if you need to dial someone on the phone in Italy, it's 39 is the country code. I was all over the place, Ethan. And, as great of a trip as it was, and we spent a little time in France and a little time in Greece, but mostly in Italy. 42 days is a very, very long trip. It really, it tests your patience sometimes, and it also tests your finances. So I'm happy to be
home. So did you hear LeBron signed with the Heat or was traded to the Heat? Have you heard that?
It's funny because I feel like
Wiggins and Rozier.
I mean, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I mean, the Minkah Fitzpatrick deal happened while I was gone, and I was like, I was so out of the loop. I'm like, are we sure that, like, what year is it? Like Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins? Like, am I getting like 8-year-old notifications in Italy? Like, what's going on? So, and then, right when I was getting back home was when the Khalil Ware, quote happened that I was, and of course you guys covered that expertly on the network. So I'm still, I did my best while I was over there, still doing some Locked On Canes stuff over there, like kind of on a limited basis. So I was like, keeping up with all things like hurricanes between like I'm seeing the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and then I'm like reading up on recruiting news, and then I'm out at some other landmark. So yeah, when it comes to all the Heat and Dolphins happenings, I'm just playing catch up these last few days since I've been back.
Well, you heard the Panthers have now won 5 cups. Marshawn went back to Boston, though. No, none of that happened.
And by the way, when they won the cup, I was already over there. My trip had just started.
I know.
And so I had to, it was one of the most difficult things about it, Ethan, was, for as much as I am a devoted South Florida sports fan, those games that were starting at like 8 p.m. Eastern time, that was 2 a.m. over there. So I was, I was having to, go to bed and wake up the next morning to say we won. It was painful. Like to have to like wake up the next morning and see, oh yeah, the Panthers just won the Stanley Cup. And it all happened in the middle of the night while I was asleep. That was weird.
Yeah, I can imagine that because I've been overseas sometimes when that kind of stuff has happened, and it does take a little bit of time to process. But it's funny because when you're here and you're going through it, and you and I are doing episodes on how the Panthers come back from a 2-0 deficit against Toronto, all that kind of stuff, and then it's like you go somewhere and you disconnect, and you're not in like the middle of it anymore, and it does not seem as important as it did when you were here. What's more important there is, how am I going to get out of this tourist attraction and get to the next one? Like, you don't even like what Ekblad or Kachuk is doing doesn't really resonate. But anyway, the Panthers did win a cup. LeBron is not a member of the Heat yet. And Khalil Ware is now back in everybody's good graces. And the Marlins, by the way, are a competitive baseball team. So you left, and that happened. And I don't even know how to process that, although we're not going to talk about that today. Talking about the Dolphins, do want to mention Prize Picks. I forgot to do this at the start. Use the code 5. FIVE. Put down your $5. You get 50 to play right away. Prize Picks is the official sponsor. 5 Reasons Sports Network on the fantasy side. MLB and WNBA both going right now, so play those. And of course, in the fall, you can play football, basketball, hockey, and more. I'm getting back on the WNBA train here. Plenty to play there, and if you know the league at all, you can do fairly well on there as well. So put down the $5 and get your 50. All right, let's get to the Dolphins though, because we're in this kind of weird place. Because I remember many years, even over this drought, of course, the only team not to win a playoff game in the last 25 years is the Dolphins. 31 have won one has not. Just the Miami Dolphins. And the Panthers have now won 2 Stanley Cups. Okay. The Marlins have won 2 World Series. The Heat have won 3 championships since the Dolphins last won a playoff game. There's no way to sugarcoat this at this point, and they're not a Super Bowl contender this year either. But I am wondering if it has swung too far negative at this point, because I'm really not seeing the level of losses from the roster last year that suggests to me that the team is that much worse than they were. And I don't think they're better. I will say that. I don't think they're better, but I don't think they're that much worse. And of course, they had the Tua injury during the season last year.
Yeah.
And I feel like if Tua was healthy, the ultimate caveat, they could be a win or two better simply based on that. Now they've added Minka Fitzpatrick. Jalen Ramsey is out, but he didn't want to be here. Of course, Calais Campbell's out. Terran Armstead's out. So that's a lot of leadership that they've lost. And now Jonnu Smith is out, and they're replacing with Darren Waller, who actually was a better player than Jonnu Smith, but has been retired for a year. And when guys are retired,
yeah, that's the only there's that. I mean, great player, but he was retired.
He was retired, and to me, once you check out, you kind of check out.
Yeah.
So where are you with this? Because I feel like I'm saying 7-10, 8-9, but I could see them being 9-8 if Tua is healthy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, have we overdone it the other direction?
Yes. And to me, it's about adjusting your expectations. Cause I think if you look at a couple of questions, Ethan, that are going to be answered this season, I can absolutely talk myself into this being a really important and really exciting season for Miami Dolphins football. Why do I say that? I think that this season could decide the future of Chris Grier. How much longer is he going to continue as the GM?
Hold on a second. Hold on.
We've been saying that for 6-7 years now.
Yeah, I mean, what happened in Europe, man? Like, did you forget? Like, he's never going anywhere else.
All right, fair. So even if you move on the Grier, let's table the Grier thing, because you're right. At 30 years, he'll still be the GM of the Miami Dolphins. But I do believe that you could ask some valid questions about, if the Dolphins don't get into the playoffs, how much longer do you ride with the Mike McDaniel experiment, which was really exciting the first couple of years? Like, look, this is a completely different approach to coaching. This guy's a nerd. He's one of the guys. He's a player's coach. And, had some good times, some not so good times. It hasn't worked out, no playoff wins. So I think this year is going to be a decisive year for Mike McDaniel. It could also be a decisive year, good or bad, for the future of Tua Tagovailoa as Miami's franchise quarterback. And then so you have those big questions that are lingering heading into this season. Now, the only problem with that is if we go into a year saying, hey, this is like a really pivotal year for the future of the direction of the franchise, those questions don't necessarily translate into ticket sales and TV ratings, right? Because if I've got all these big picture questions about the organization, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be excited. I'm going to be out there 5 hours before the game to tailgate, and I'm going to be spending, 4 figures to bring my family out to games. Like, I get it that's not the best sell when it comes to getting people into Hard Rock Stadium, but the Dolphins usually sell pretty well regardless. But knowing, Ethan, that this team is not expected to contend this year, which is a change from the previous few years, because we had all talked ourselves into, hey, this team's a legit contender. This could be a Super Bowl contender. Maybe the Bills are fading. I think we got over that idea, and the Dolphins are going to take over the AFC East. I look at the Las Vegas over-under for the Dolphins this year, which could really have been their over-under for each of the last 20 years, is 8.5 wins.
8.5.
That's 8.5. That's the win total for the Dolphins this year. So the way that I look at it is, hey, if this team can contend, which, as you mentioned, would probably rest heavily on Tua Tagovailoa needing to get through a fully healthy season, which he's only done one time during his tenure with the Miami Dolphins so far. But if this team actually can get into the playoffs this year, that would feel like a bonus versus the expectation. But I think going into a season where it's very much a transitional year, I believe, for this franchise, no matter who the GM is 2 or 3 years down the road, you're going to have big decisions to make about your head coach, about your starting quarterback, about your approach to drafting. Can the Dolphins fix this cornerback room a little bit before? Are there veterans to be had before the season starts? Because we don't have any cornerbacks. I mean, what's going on in the cornerback room? So, I can talk myself into being excited about this upcoming Dolphin season, but just for different reasons than the past few years, because this team does not look like a contender. I mean, for the past few seasons, Ethan, the Dolphins had always been second in the odds to win the division, right, with the Bills. Now the Dolphins have slid to third. So you got the Bills favorites, then you've got New England at plus 500, the Dolphins at plus 700 to win the division.
That's where I wanted to pop in here, because that, to me, is the most frustrating and disappointing part of all this, is that the Dolphins did a whole damn rebuild, and the Patriots, in the eyes of the public, have passed them again. The Patriots Had Brady, lost Brady, had a failed quarterback experiment with Mac Jones, stripped down the roster entirely, and they are projected to finish ahead of Miami. I mean, what does that tell you? If you're the owner of this team, how do you the Jets are a whole nother story, but how do you let that happen? Like, I get it. Like, you're chasing the Bills and you did certain things to try to get up there, whether it was the Ramsey trade, the Tyreek trade, or whatever. Okay, and all the extensions they gave out, most of which looks like the wrong extensions. They didn't extend Van Ginkel. Look what's happened with him. Okay, Sealer, they've got a dispute with right now, potentially. Okay, Jonnu Smith, they didn't extend. The players who have produced for them, they haven't extended. The ones who have been problems have gotten extensions. Okay, Waddle, I don't think has lived up to it yet. We'll see if he does this year. But my thing about it is that, again, you did all of this. You've had to reshape the entire, most of the defense. Now, you mentioned the team has no cornerbacks. I mean, Surtain and Madison can go out there in their current ages, and I'm talking about Surtain Senior, and it might look a little bit better than it looks right now. And yet, like, New England literally has, in the eyes of the public, passed you. How does that happen? They drafted a quarterback a year ago, and there's already a projection that way. And to me, that is what is so frustrating about this. And yet, I still think we might be underrating them a little bit. Here's some possible green shoots for them. Okay. I do think the offensive line will be better. I think that the physicality of the line is something that they've addressed. I think the defensive line has a chance to be very good, actually. And the pass rush has a chance to be very good. I think the linebacker core has a chance to be one of the better ones they've had in recent years. I think that the defensive coordinator is really good, and he's got more of the players that he wants. I don't know that he can mask the issues at corner. We'll see what Minka looks like, but obviously you've added a playmaker. And let's just be honest, Javon Holland made no plays last year after game one.
No.
So I think that there are some things that if you have a healthy quarterback, you can maybe get to 9. But I could also see this thing being at 4 or 5.
Yeah,
honestly.
I could too.
I mean, if Tua's hurt, because I don't think they've addressed the backup quarterback situation. I mean, I feel a little better about Zach Wilson, but let's look at it this way. Mike White lost the number 2 job last year to Skylar Thompson, who proved not to be an NFL quarterback, and yet Jet fans wanted Mike White to play ahead of Zach Wilson. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so again, I know that Zach Wilson has learned some things. Seems like he's gotten his stuff together off the field. He played pretty well in the preseason for Denver and then didn't get an opportunity in the regular season. But again, Jet fans wanted Mike White to play ahead of him, and the Dolphins decided that Skylar Thompson was better than Mike White. So I don't know. I still have a lack of confidence in that. All right, so let's get to it, and just we'll finish it up here. We're going to do more episodes as we go forward. But just to let people know, report day is July 22nd. A few veteran players are going to be available to the media. So we're talking about we're less than 7 days away here.
I can't believe how fast this is coming up. And I became aware, like I know it's always late July, but the fact that it is mid-July right now is still blowing. I guess that's what happens when you spend 6 weeks overseas. But yeah, we're what are we, 5 days away now from Dolphins camp opening up. Mm-hmm. I'm of course going to be covering Canes training camp, which opens up on July 31st. I'll be at ACC Media Days next week. So yeah, I know we've been, for several weeks, we've been in this lull. Right, where baseball is really the only thing. It's some WNBA kind of carrying the sports scene. But Ethan, football is going to be here, and then basketball around the corner as well. But football is going to be here before we know it.
Yeah, and I wish we could play Prize Picks. How many snaps does a player get in a given day? Because that would give us actually something to do. I'll go here. What do you think? And we'll finish with this. What position group do you think will be the standout for them?
I think it could be the pass rush. Really, I think that's an area that has been affected the last couple of years by injury. I think if we have the blessing of health this year, that's like one area where it's hard for me to blame Grier and McDaniel for, because they've had such terrible luck with the health of the pass rush. Right. I mean, I could say in terms of
Grier, this is one where I might let Grier off the hook, but not McDaniel, because both Jalen Phillips, not this past year, but the year before, both Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb got injured in situations where you could argue they shouldn't even been on the field.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
But so this is one where I tend to blame Grier for most things, but actually
not that. Yeah.
Not that. And I know it's fairly random, but there were situations. The Bradley Chubb one for sure. I don't know why he was on
but I'll say pass rush, and also I've always, for the last couple of years, and they keep adding more bodies to it. I like the Dolphins running back room. So I can be bullish on that as well. And like you said, if the offensive line does trend upwards compared to last year, that's going to have a domino effect on your running game as well. So that's another area that I like.
I also think they'll sign a veteran corner. This will be one of these deals where, like, the day before training camp, somebody's going to come in here. It doesn't look like it's going to be. I'm sorry, the one whose father is always complaining about them. God, now it's slipping my mind. The corner that they were going to look at, but I think they'll add a corner right before camp. But again, I always caution on this. It's very rare when you add a player right before camp and he really pops for you. There's very few examples.
Rasul Douglas, is that the guy you're thinking of?
No, it's the one whose father has a podcast. And as soon as we finish, it's going to come to me because I know that we. Hold on. Free agent cornerbacks, and I'll tell you. Hold on, because he's still out there.
Has a podcast.
Xavier Howard's still out there too. I mean, if that's the direction we want to go in.
That is true.
Although I don't even know if he wants to play football anymore. But let's.
That was another one with Xavier Howard. That was another one. When I was checking my news over in Italy, I kept seeing his name pop up, and I'm like, what year? Like again, with Minkah Fitzpatrick is coming back, and Xavier Howard's getting mentioned. I wasn't sure if I was reading the right news.
Oh, I got it. Asante Samuel Jr.
Oh yes,
but his father just criticized the Dolphins, so I don't know on this, but he had a shoulder injury last year and missed time. But that would be the one. It wouldn't stun me. You have to get somebody with some experience there that at least the other team respects, or else they're going to be picking on both sides of that thing. So we'll see where it goes. This is from John Blue. It's not the team is bad because technically Miami is middle of the pack, but teams are tired of 8-8 or more recently 8-9 seasons. There is some parallel here to the Heat. The Heat get a little bit more grace on this because they've gotten out of this before, whereas the Dolphins just keep sort of finding it. But I do see a potential 9-8 season if Tua is healthy, but I think it could be as bad as 4-13 if he's not.
But then I'll ask you, like, to the Dolphins fan base, does 9-8 feel much better than 4-13? Honestly, like.
Well, it doesn't if the Dolphin fan base wants them to replace people, and 9-8 means that they have an excuse not to.
Right. So maybe you'd rather go 4-13 because 9-8 is probably not getting you to the playoffs. I mean,
in which case they'll go 4-13, and Grier will be making the third pick of the draft. Alex, it's good to have you back stateside. Like I said, we'll talk about LeBron. What number is LeBron going to wear in Miami? We'll talk about that in the next episode. All right. Thanks to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Be bringing in more sponsors here as we go forward to start getting in a rhythm of doing these 2 a week again. Also, want to mention for those of you looking for Dolphins content, we have 3 podcasts now under us. 3 yards per carry. They're going to start doing video. You'll actually get to see what Simon looks like. I didn't know they did video in London. Before. No, he's a very good looking man, but like you never see him because he's just he's like a ghost.
I thought he might have been AI. Like I didn't even know if Simon was a real person.
He could. That voice could be AI. So 3 yards per carry. Of course, Alan Poupart. That podcast is with us as well. All Dolphins as a daily podcast, and guys at Inside Leverage also just recorded last night. So we got plenty. Plus our guys at the Scouting Combine. We got plenty of stuff. So check it out. Again, everything will be here on the YouTube channel. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. We'll be back on what's today? Tuesday. Today's Thursday. We'll be back next Tuesday. Yep.